Hello and welcome. This is hashtag LIC, live inspirational common unity collaboration show. My name is Markabadi and it is a pleasure. What day is it? It is Tuesday, and it was Tech Tuesday, but I think it's got to be something else. It's got to be Transmutational Tuesday or something. Maybe that's Transmutational Thursday. Who knows? Anyway, welcome. We've got a fantastic guest interview today. Please share, like and share. Share's the important bit. Have watch parties if you can. Cool. So today we've got Larry Michel, aka the Love Shepherd. We're going to be talking about mastering the art of intimate connection. Larry's passion is helping people discover and experience love. Not the stories or projections, but real, authentic, life-giving love. And it requires compassion, understanding, freedom, and choice. Larry Michel is the founder of the Institute of Genetic Energetics, a master ERP and host of the Love Matters podcast. He's a breakthrough relationship coach, author, trainer, speaker, and producer. As the founder and voice of the4ounces.com, he's brought the world the only scientifically proven online compatibility system that unlocks the mysteries and reveals the true motivations behind our actions, from devastating emotional upsets to our most joyous and blissful experiences. Larry dedicates his life to creating possibility for all of us to live in courageous intimacy, like that, courageous intimacy, in deep connectivity and in our full loving expression. There's also a free gift download that Larry has posted in the link to this interview. You can find out more on the4answers.com. Cool. All right. So let's get to it. Let's find Larry and bring him in. Larry Michel. Hello. Welcome.
Hi there. Markabadi. Great to see you.
Nice. Nice to be seen, brother. And we were comparing our bald spots before.
Yeah, I wanted to see who was shinier, right? On the top.
I have a special shine light that helps me. Tell us, Larry, where have you come from?
Where have I come from? I was hatched. Where have I come from? So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and many decades ago. And I, from a very young age, was really searching in need of affection and love. And that desire, that juvenile young desire, turned into a very powerful adult desire, but it really determined my path. I went into psychology and sociology and coaching and working with people starting at 14, actually. Started pretty young, almost too young, and but made that my life's work, and had followed that path through a bunch of different occupations, always very focused on the human condition. It's like that it was always painful to me when I saw people in pain, and it was clearly painful to me when I was in pain, and I took myself through a lot of it as a kid. For sure. And I just decided there's got to be some better ways. So I thought, if I'm a psychologist and I could work with people, it would be great. And my first experience with really good therapists were trying to manage my own relationship traumas and challenges. So I went down that path and took it into business, took it into families, took it in a lot of different areas. And then about, a decade and a half ago, I was introduced to a technology that literally shifted considerably my entire trajectory. Became a dharma path for me, if you will. And that's what I do now, which is genetic energetics. And I still work a lot with couples. I love working with couples. Used to work mostly with singles, but couples, to me, like people are, when they're committed and there's a reason for them to really want a relationship to work, there's an incentive, right? And the leverage is there to get things done. And I like that, because people right from the beginning will say, this is what we want. This is what we want to go to. If someone says, I don't know, then, that's a separate, different kind of work. And at the end of the day, the work that I do is all about how people connect. It's managing our connections. It's
Mm.
how to have a truly um, intimate connection, not just with our beloveds, but with our children and with our friends. One where we can be authentic, integral, and we can be courageous. I mean, we're really interested in growing and evolving as a human being. And to me, that if you can come from that place, that's the most blissful, co-creative, loving, joyful place you can possibly be in. And so that's my life's work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us about this technology then.
Okay. So, 15 years ago when I was introduced to it, I was in one of those situations where I was in a relationship that I thought was going great. And it was for a couple of years, and then it became something else. I think probably, I don't know, Mark, I'm sure you've had an experience like that. I've been hard pressed to find anybody that has not had that experience.
Every relationship I've had has been fantastic.
And everyone, right?
Everyone.
All the entire time.
Yes,
Let's
exactly.
see. Okay.
No, no, I had a slight crazy girlfriend once.
Okay. So, and I've had a slight crazy girlfriend, and I think I've been kind of crazy from time to time. And, I used to be like this hopeless romantic where I thought that for what I discovered later on in life, that what I was trying to do was just prove my worth all the time. And so, romantic exploits and all the expressions and poetry and everything that I did was all luscious and delicious, but it had an itinerary, which was, see me, believe in me, love me, right? So it kind of came from a place of neediness. And, when I finally realized that, I went, okay, this is not going to work. If I'm going to be romantic, it's going to be because my heart leads, and not, a place of being a victim or being needy. And it was a huge shift. It
Wow.
required getting out of my stories. And so 15 some odd years ago, when I was introduced to genetic energetics, which had a totally different name back then, but when I was introduced to it, it immediately became clear to me this was a tool for busting stories. And when I say busting stories, I mean that when we hold on to any kind of emotion like shame or blame or guilt or resentment or a judgment, any of those, that totally just sabotages and sidetracks our ability to be loving. In fact, love doesn't exist when those emotions are there. And where do they come from? They come from a story and a belief system that we hold on to so tightly that it predetermines, the experience that we're going to have with another person, right? And so, when I was introduced to this technology, I went, wow, this just like busted some major stories, things that I believed, and it was so freaking quick, Mark. It was amazing. So the coaching that I used to do that sometimes would take months to work with someone, we could get to the grassroots. We could get to the basic of it, and find a solution and a direction, sometimes within an hour or less. So a huge change in what it took to bring someone into their own and into their heart. And so I called it story busting, right? And it's now there's people think stories are great, and they are if they're movies, right? They are if you're telling a story or telling a joke, those are fun. But I'm talking about the stories where we have a preconceived idea about why either we did something or someone did something to us, and there's a make wrong there, right? There's that resentment, shame, or blame. And those things have to go. And they really very often are related to how we connect with each other, and how we connect with each other is influenced dramatically by our genetic energetics. In other words, there's an energetic frequency that we vibrate at. And that frequency, when it's the same as someone else's, it's beautiful. It's the harmonic is wonderful. But when it's different, it's discordant, and it causes challenges. And when those come up, that's when we start going, well, why'd this happen? So I can give you an example if you'd like one. So you meet someone, we've all had this experience where we meet someone and we're not with them very long, and all of a sudden we feel like, wow, my energy is just getting zapped right out of me, right? And the more time we spend with them, the more tired we get, and we're finding ourselves distracted. It could be you and I in a conversation, and all of a sudden I'm not looking at you anymore. I'm kind of looking around, I'm distracted, I'm yawning, all these kind of things. And when that starts to happen, the quality of the engagement, the connection depreciates quickly. Would you agree?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So what do? We go, well, gosh, this person is they're really wearing me down. And we have a nickname for them, and almost everyone uses the same nickname. They call the person an energy vampire,
Right, or
right?
trainer, yeah.
Yeah, they're just drain my energy. And here's the challenge. That person could be someone we really love and care for, or it could be someone that we want to be doing business with and connecting with on an ongoing basis. Or they may have a lot of characteristics about them that we just think, wow, this is amazing. I want to get to know this person more. I want to know what they're doing. I want to know why he's in Hawaii right now with these beautiful rattan screens behind him. Tell me more, right? And so we have all this desire, but at the same time, we're being worn down. And then when it comes time that we finally, leave that relationship or that experience that we're having, what happens is our energy comes back when we're outside of their field. What's really happening is we're outside of each other's field. So if we have two different energetic frequencies happening, bombarding each other, we really deplete each other's energy. And what do we do about it? Because sometimes we really want to be with that person. Well, the first thing we have to do about it is we have to make sure we're not making the other person wrong. Like, oh yeah, I just spent an hour with Mark, man. I was exhausted. I can't spend any time with him. Yeah, nice guy and all, but shit, I don't even know that I can do business with him. And the
Uh-huh.
reality is that we can navigate and accommodate for all kinds of differences, but we have to be able to identify those differences so we can appreciate and honor them
Mhm.
instead of going, oh yeah, he just wears me down. I don't know what your experience is with Mark, but that no good for me, right? Now I'm like making you wrong.
Yeah,
And that gets totally in the way of all the potential that we could experience with our times together, right?
right. I mean, when we're together with people in any sort of relationship, whether it's business or romantic or whatever, um, there are these notions of how do we connect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, the saying there's always two sides to every story. It brings up this notion of, you know, if something is not gelling between you, is it just that there's not a fit, or is it that they can look at their shit, or maybe you need to look at your shit? And what do you say to the point where being uncomfortable with somebody may be actually the exact mirror that you need?
That's a really good question. So I would say being uncomfortable with someone is an experience that we need if we have a tendency to be self-righteous, or if we have a tendency to always expect those people that we're with to be the same as us, right?
Mhm.
And then putting someone that's really different in front of us is going to force us to do one of two things. Either come to the realization that I can't hold on to this absolute desire that you need to be like me, and instead get curious and interested in who the person is, right?
Right,
So, and I think all of us, Mark, need to do that. I
yeah.
mean, that's like, we have a big issue right now in the world where racism has come to the forefront, right? And here we are, two white guys talking about racism. Well,
Funny, yeah, I mean, we're white, but we're Jewish white.
okay, so yes, and we could go down that path and have a hell of a conversation about it.
Yeah.
The reality is that maybe because of your background or mine, I know I grew up in an environment where there were 3 Jewish kids, there were 3 black kids, and 3 Asian kids in a school of 2,000,
Sounds like a
right?
small joke.
Yeah, and it does. And I was one of the Jews, and I can tell you that a lot of the people I wanted to connect with wouldn't do it. So I was persecuted, and and
Hmm.
experienced my own form of racism.
Yeah,
So I have a little bit more experience than maybe someone that hasn't had that.
yeah.
That said, the reality is that when we're with anybody that's different than us, it's an invitation to discover who they are and not judge them because they're different than us, right?
Mm.
And this is it's almost a completely different conversation than genetic energetics, but there is a way that they fit together. So here's the thing. We have this need. I believe it's a human need that if we're going to be civil, right? We're civilization, ideally. And if we're going to be humane, then we need to be able to embrace our differences.
Mm.
Now, if in the midst of that desire to embrace our differences, our energetic frequencies that are dislodging us, it makes it more difficult. Okay, so I'll give you an example. My sister is energetically very different than I am. I love her. I think she's an amazing woman. And her husband used to invite us over all the time, say, come on over, have dinner, play games. And I always had an excuse, Mark. It's like, I didn't even know why I had an excuse, but I just like, oh, I'd rather talk to you on the phone. It's good to hear from you. I love you. But I didn't want to spend time with them because when I did, it wore me down and communication was a bit challenging, right? What I discovered when I was exposed to genetic energetics is that we had two different communication styles. We literally spoke two different languages. She was very emotive, very figurative in her communication. I'm what's called structural talking style. She's figurative. Mark, you and I are both structural talking style. We ran your profile.
Mm.
We pick our words to mean exactly what we want to say.
Mm.
And when someone's talking to us, the easiest way for us to interpret it is to base it on the meaning, the actual meaning of the words, right? Well,
Mhm.
half the population doesn't talk that way. My sister's one of them. She's very emotive, right? And so it's really easy for me to have a misunderstanding with her. And when we have a misunderstanding in how we're communicating, despite our desire to want to connect with someone, the tendency there is to say, well, you didn't listen to me or you didn't hear me. I was perfectly clear. I was perfectly clear. How could you have not understood that?
Yes.
Right. And, the reality between, for example, in genetic energetics, the two different communication styles, the figurative person is listening for an emotion. And when I work with couples, sometimes I'll say to the figurative person, I'll go, well, they told you they love you. They told you these specific things. And they'll go, but I didn't hear it. And I said, were you listening to them clearly? And they were. And I said, I bet you were listening for an emotion that told you should be paying attention. And they went, oh my God, that's true.
What do you
Because
mean by
they,
that? Can you explain that a bit more? Listening for
okay,
emotion.
for an emotion. All
Because
right. So
if somebody says, I love you, is that not the emotional expression?
it's a perfect question. Thank you so much. So for you and I, yes, because we're both structural talking style. Because we would probably not say I love you to someone unless we were feeling it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay. So my daughter's is what's called figurative talking style. And I have two boys that are structural. I tell them I love them, they get it, right? I say to my daughter, honey, I love you. She doesn't hear it. She just doesn't hear it because in that statement, the word is there, but what she needs to hear is, oh my God, I love you so much.
Mm.
Can you hear the difference, right? It's
Mhm.
like, Mark, I'm very upset at you because you just weren't paying
Right.
attention to what
Right.
I wanted you to do, right? And the figurative person, you could be talking to them and say that, and they don't hear an emotion, so they don't really get that you're upset. And I go, damn it, I'm really upset. I mean,
Right.
I don't know what to do. I'm so, I don't know, right? And
Right.
that happens, and now they're going, oh, whoa, there's something here.
Right.
And so between those two different communication styles, oftentimes they don't hear each other
Right.
clearly because they speak different languages.
Now, coming from you said it was the figurative people who are looking for the emotions, or
They need to hear an emotion
they need to
to
hear them.
know that it's even an important conversation to
So,
be
do
had
they also need to express an emotion?
very often.
Because
So,
I've
but
come across
here's,
people where they've said things like "I love you" to me, and
mhm.
even though I take words as they are, I've not felt it. I've not felt that that's been a truism. Not that it's not that they don't feel it. But I have not felt it from their words. It's like it seemed neutral. Now,
Right.
how can we explain that?
Well, there's a number of reasons. So the words "I love you" get tossed around
Yeah,
like ping pong balls, right?
absolutely.
And there's like, you send an email, you send a conversation, "I love you, I love you, I love everybody," right?
I am
So
constantly saying it.
after a while, people kind of start to get desensitized to it,
Right.
right? And then there's those people that you just don't hear that come out of their mouth very often, right? And then they say, "I love you." Like, I really love you. I appreciate who you are. Most structural talking style people, when they express that, will probably add some description to it as well, right? A figurative talking style person is going to really say it. You'll feel an emotion come from them, right? They're far more emotive. But
Mm,
the words that they use are not near as important as an emotion.
mm,
And because of that, when they convey something to you, you've got to almost read between the lines many times. And for example, I'm coaching clients. They're not all the same as me. In fact, they're all very, very different. And so for me, oftentimes when they say something, I have to check in. I
mm.
have to ask them, and I'll say, you just said this, and I need to make sure I really understand that. What I think I heard you say is, and I'll feed it back. And it's not uncommon for them to go, "Well, I did say that, but that's not really what I meant. What I meant is this." And then they'll say that, and I'm listening very carefully. And again, I'll feed it back, right?
Mm.
Just to make sure I'm really clear that I've got what it is they're trying to convey to me.
Right.
And, how often do we do that in relationships, whether business, our children, our beloved? I would say very rarely do people take the time to really get clarity about the words they're conveying. And then, let's just put some really crazy statistics on top of it. Communication is made up of three things: the words we use, the tonality of our communication, and our body language.
Mm.
Now, this is science. This has been proven. There was a Stanford study that was happened years and years ago. So words are only 7% of our communication. A whole communication, that's only 7%. So the other 93%,
Mm.
right, is our tonality. It's how we're speaking, and it's our body movement. If I'm standing here like this and I'm just talking like this the whole time using just the words, not only will it bore people and they want to get off the show quickly,
Right.
they want more. But so now, how do we communicate most often right now? Text. We're
Right.
texting people, right? So
Most.
and all we have with text is words. Now remember, words are only 7% of our communication,
Mm.
right? So there's a 93% chance right there that you're going to misunderstand someone. Now you have two different communication styles. One's figurative and one's structural. And I can tell you, when those two text each other, the chances of understanding each other, now we're down to 3.5%. You got a 96.5% chance of misunderstanding a person when you're texting. Wow, you're better to go gamble in Las Vegas.
Or record a voice message. That's what I'm started doing, sending people
Yeah.
voice messages.
Well, even then, right, you're relying on just your voice message, right? So the voice message helps a lot for
Mm.
sure, because they get to hear you. So there's an improvement for sure, right? Now, here we are, we're doing a video interview. So people get to see us, right? Yeah, we get to do our dance or whatever. Or, they'll watch and they go, "Wow, that's like the most boring person I've ever seen," or right?
Uh-huh.
So we have an opportunity to up level the quality of our communication. But the reality is that many people, when they have something important to say, or they're triggered or emotionally challenged, they'll immediately go to a text or an email and send that message
Right. Right.
and hope that they're really communicating well with someone. And the reality is we're not. I tell my clients all the time, I say, "Look, if you're upset, go ahead, write it down. Write it down. Get it out of your system. Don't send it.
I'm sending.
Write down what you have to say, and then get on a call, or better, get in person, and then speak it."
Right.
Right?
Right.
And whenever that happens, it goes from, "Oh my God, I'm so worried about this conversation. I don't want to do this. Got a whole relationship falling apart," to the place where they go, "I, I just never expected to make such a deep connection."
Mm, mm,
just because they took the time to acknowledge differences and realize that they need to get everything as much into their communication as possible because the person is that important.
right. And they allowed space, right? Space is an important key.
Yeah, space for themselves as well. It's like uh, I remember the first time someone said to me, "Don't send that." And I have to send it. I just got to communicate it. They need to hear this right now, right? And I'm
What is
going,
that? What is that right now thing? Because in society, there seems to be this push on us being immediate responders. Like,
oh,
intelligence tests are measured on how fast you do it. Uh, when somebody says a snarky quark to you, if you don't answer back quickly, you're more stupid than them. You lost. So like there is this focus on speed. What what and why? It, what is
where's
that?
it come from?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I'd say it's driven by our ego, for one. So the ego is in this fight for recognition. Like, I need to be important. I need to be heard. I need to be seen. I need to be listened to. So there's this, it's a neediness, right? That drives a propensity to have a quick communication and an instant response.
So it's like an id, immediate satisfaction. Like I need that sweet now. It's like I won't wait for the 5 sweets. I'll have one sweet right now.
Right. And why is that? Because inside there's not enough work being done there. If we come from a place where we really appreciate ourselves, we love, feel the love within us,
Mm, mm,
we are really clear about our abilities or even inabilities, because we have plenty of both, right?
right.
And even those things that we know we're not capable of, we know that, or that we don't believe we're capable of at the time, those are things that we know if they're really important to us, we will go discover them, right? If we have this sense, a solid sense of being inside, then we're not in a hurry. In
Right.
fact,
Wow.
in fact, we'd rather take our time. Like, if you ask me a question and I'm coming from that place, I'd rather sit with it for a little bit. Not a long time necessarily, unless I really don't know the answer, but I'd rather sit with it before I just belch out an answer to you. Because I want to make sure that it's my truth,
Mm,
right? And I'm not just saying something to make you happy.
mm,
Now, we come from that place, there's no hurry, there's no rush. In fact, there's really, and I'll go as far to say, is there's no time. It's timeless. People, when we're looking at their watch all the time, when we're living in a linear space
mm,
and we're counting the minutes and the moments and the hours go by, we're literally aging ourselves at an accelerated pace.
mm.
We're ageless beings. And when we can let go of time or an instant need for response, then we have so much more power, so much more truth, so much more beauty to share, so much more kindness and love.
Right. Right.
It's way more. It's a very different world. And things flow. Things flow in that place.
How does that um, surrendering the need to like instantly react? How does that relate to masculinity and femininity, and what's now being termed as this sort of integrated sacred masculinity that's gaining popularity amongst men and women? But
Yeah, there's a lot of languaging there, right? And this is about, wow, we could probably spend a couple hours just on this conversation.
Mhm,
Um, I think that there is a masculine and a feminine in all of us.
absolutely.
And there, but juxtaposed to that, right? The challenge that is right there on the surface is that men are and women are, and men should treat women a certain way, and women should expect and treat man a certain way. And those conversations are damaging, right? They're just as racist as black and white.
Mm,
And the reality is that every interaction between a man and woman is unique to that man and woman. And that's the first piece of information that I wish I could just like go, boop, and everyone in the world would get it, right? That it's not all men are, it's not all women are,
Mm,
each of us are unique. And we step through our masculine and feminine expressions differently depending on who we connect with. It's like genetic energetics, Mark, it's so important because understanding that is like understanding what is the influence at the core of all of our relationships.
mm,
It doesn't mean that we have to behave a certain way. It gives us an ability to look at someone and want to discover who they are and
mm,
what they are
mm,
before we impose upon them something we need, or before we even ask for something.
mm.
You know, how great would it be if at every request you were also very aware of what your need was, right? As opposed to a lot of people will ask for something and then afterwards they go, oh, wow, I,
Right.
I I had no idea I needed that so badly, right? Which is an okay realization to have, but some people never even have that, right? So back to the masculine and feminine, there is a dance, literally a dance that we do where we dance through the masculine and feminine. And that dance is going to be different with every dance partner.
Right.
And the discovery of what that is like is part of the joy of life. Right? And you may discover that this particular person, we don't dance well together.
Right.
Right? I love the way you dance, but it's, it's not comfortable for me. So acknowledge, honor them, love them for who and what they are, but they're not our match. The next person, it's the most beautiful dance in the world. And that when that happens, that's when you get feedback from people. Someone will come up to you and say, I mean, literally, they may have seen you dancing and go, wow, do you practice? Do you dance all the time? And it may have been the first dance you ever had with that
Mhm.
person, right? But the connection was so beautiful and
Yeah.
fluid. We all have the capacity for that, but we have to get our shit out of the way to be able to go there.
And it seems like it's important to come without expectations of a response.
Oh, absolutely. That, an expectation is almost always going to result in less than, right? You want someone to either meet your expectations or exceed your expectations,
Mhm.
but definitely, one of those two, right?
Right.
The reality is when we come in with an expectation, we want something specific, we restrict ourselves from seeing everything around that person that could actually be adding more beauty and more potentiality and possibility that has been curtailed. It's been eliminated because you're just in this narrow passageway.
So what's a way to for everyone to stop with these expectations? Like we all have expectations. I expected when I sat on this chair, it wasn't going to collapse underneath me. We all have belief systems that help us move through the world. I remember that was the most important thing I got from psychology, or one of them. But that we wouldn't be able to function if we didn't have these belief systems about expectations of how the world was going to respond.
So
Uh,
I would actually invite a change in vocabulary
mhm,
from expectation to discernment. So I go to sit down on this chair, you know, from my experience with this chair, I've discerned that this is a safe chair to sit on,
okay.
right? Um, if I want to have an engagement with someone, I'm going to want to discern whether they're trustworthy, not whether I can trust them, because
Mhm,
trust is an inside job. When I hear someone say, I can't trust that person, I can't trust that, we're really saying we can't trust ourselves to discern whether the person that we're engaging with is trustworthy, right? So it's discernment that's important.
mm,
And we have to use this all the time. You go to open up a can or unhook a lid from something, right? Is it safe? Well, you've discerned that when you open up a can of pickles, a jar of pickles, that you're going to hold it upright as opposed to sideways, right? Because you open it sideways, it's going
right.
to spill out all over you. So it's not an expectation as much as it's getting clarity about, how do I interact with this scenario that I'm in,
Mm.
whatever it might be.
Um, trust is an inside job. I like that. One of our mutual friends, George, uh, uh, he mentioned that when it came to trust, because trust is one of these things that I'm very interested in, because it's one of these things that I really want from the world. I want the world to trust me because I feel I'm trustworthy. Now, he was reflecting back and turning it and saying, well, if that's what you want from the outside, it's actually what you want from the inside. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you want it from yourself. How
Mm-hmm.
does that relate to your work in terms of, what we're really looking for outside is what really we need inside?
Well, oh gosh, in many ways, when we're focused on something, when our emotions are enhanced, or we're triggered, or we're really looking hard for something exterior to us, that's usually more than there's a 99.9% chance that it's something inside that's missing that we need to work on. Debbie Ford was really great when she was alive. She used to say, when you point at me, when you say you did this, there's one finger pointing out, the other three are pointing back, right? And so when we make a point of um, accentuating something someone else is doing or has done to us, or that we need from them, it really speaks very clearly to what we need to work on within ourselves. And if we listen to that and allow that reflection to come back to us, that's an opportunity for growth. So here's the scenario. When George says that, he's basically saying there are opportunities for growth all around you. And not only do you need to see them, because that's the start, you need to be aware of them, but you need ideally, you want to be excited about them. You
Right.
want to see that as part of your evolution, part of your opportunity to grow, right? And that's life-giving. I mean, that's truly life-giving. When we stop and go, I'm this way, I am not going to change. I like the way I am. And if you don't like it, that's too bad.
Pretty much what I
And
hear from everyone who's over 60.
oftentimes, right? In fact, and I, for the longest time with genetic energetics, our audience was mostly women, hundreds of thousands of them that were single. And the common question that I would get from women, and their ages were kind of like 35 into 60 or 70. And they would go, why do older men always want younger women? Why is that? Like, I'm too old now. No one's ever interested in me. And my response to them was, the older man doesn't want a younger woman. Older man wants a woman who's young at heart, right? Someone who's still curious, someone who's still growing, and someone who's still changing and is interested in exploring and discovering what relationships are like. And I think the same thing is true of women. They don't want some old fart that thinks he knows everything and he's a certain way and this is the way I do it and I'm not changing. I mean, why? Why would anybody want to have an encounter with that person? Unless they were using them, for a specific outcome, they certainly wouldn't be entertaining that relationship as an opportunity to grow and explore and experience life. No fucking way,
Yeah, you
right?
can't grow alone in a relationship.
What's that?
You can't grow alone in a relationship.
No, you really can't.
So,
And the relationships we have are our greatest source of growth, right? So we have a choice. We can be fearful, and we can hold back our vulnerability and be protected, or we can open up and be courageous.
mm, mm,
So when I use the term courageous intimacy, which is a piece that I teach often, it's like taking radical honesty to the next step. It's that point where you are so willing to be seen that the things that you believe in the most, that you hold on to the most, that have defined you the most, that you're actually excited for someone to come in and go, hey, have you tried this? And you go, oh, 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 that's cool, right? And next thing you know, there's a shift, there's some growth, we're evolving.
I mean, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to die a
You
little.
have yeah, you have to be not just willing, but you have to be desirous of it.
Mm.
And my contention is that if you want to live a vibrant life, you must, it's not a maybe, you must be desirous of that.
Mm. Desire.
Otherwise you might as well just like get off the earth. You're done. You're done contributing. There's nothing new about what you've got to offer. Leave all your money behind, let someone else work with it, and just go someplace. Doesn't matter. Now I know that seems cold, but truly the most amazing people I think that I've been impacted by in my life is someone who's 80 or 90 years old and has still got that, oh God, I never saw it that way. That's so cool. You just gave me another 20 years to my 90.
Right. Because in society we've rejected, especially in the West here, we don't really have our wisdom keepers from our seniors. We've almost boxed them into dothering old fools, as opposed to honoring them and honoring the wisdom they've got. Do you think that I mean, which is the chicken and the egg here? Is it that our Western old people are just fixed in their system because of the society and how it programs us throughout life into the adult, or or is it that society is compressing them into these? Um,
I think there's a little of both. There's a little of both. We have, um, we have kids that are growing up on computers and keyboards and with a wealth of information like we all have available to us. But it's kind of like, when you're young and you go to learn a language, you can learn multiple languages really fast. Try and learn multiple languages when you're 60, right? It's a little more work. And so the reality is that the younger generations are producing just masses of information, and they're aggressively looking for insights and ways to expand on what's going on in the world at an accelerated pace. And it just as information is coming in at an accelerated pace, but what's missing, of course, is the wisdom, the experience. And it's not just experience, but it's what you do with it. I just what we're going through right now, with the Black Lives Matter environment that we're in, is a very sensitive one. And I grew up in 1968. I was there, boycotting, and I was there as an anti-war demonstrator for the Vietnam War. I was marching on freeways. I've gone through, in my experience in life, some of the things that are happening today, and I saw what worked and I saw what didn't work. Right? I saw leadership and I saw passion. And my reality looking back across all those years is that when it was just passion without leadership and direction and specific things that people wanted to accomplish to better the world, in other words, when that was there, those things, many of them took place and changed. But when it wasn't there, it was just a lot of people exercising their emotions, which has a value, but it didn't get long-term results, right? So for me, as things have, with all the things that are going on right now, I look at it and I'm going, I want to know what's really happening. I want to know what's really happening. So I'm less likely to get doped in and pulled in by a zillion different headlines or a zillion different conspiracy theories, because none of them are telling me necessarily what's truly happening. So I want to get to the truth, and then I want to know what actions we need to take now that are really going to create long-term changes and not just a band-aid, right? So when I have a conversation with someone and they're all just all caught up in all this and excited and upset, and I'm a little bit more relaxed about it, I have to sometimes deal with someone going, what, do you like not care? Or you seem to like be like not touched by all this. The reality is I'm touched deeply, maybe far more deeply than the person that's just reacting. But I'm
Different
bringing,
expressive styles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely styles. So, so what do I have? So I have some wisdom maybe that says, look a little deeper here. Take some more time before you react, right? Think about the long-term meaning of what someone's doing. See if you can look at the picture a little bit wider instead of very narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And, why do I say that? Because I just know that for me, I had to do that to get to the point where I didn't hate someone for what they did or did not do,
Right.
right? I wasn't angry at someone for what they did or did not do. Instead, I could go, look, this is how they grew up. They grew up in this environment. How could you expect anything different from them, right? This is how you grew up. How could you expect to even know what this other person is experiencing? So give yourself some time to discover and really get to know that other person. Acknowledge and honor and respect them for everything that's going on. And then interact from that place. That's where love is, right?
That's the space and the courage to not project who we expect them to be onto them. The whole finger thing.
Yeah. Or, we have an itinerary. If we look at most of the journalism that's coming out today has an itinerary behind it. They want us to believe a certain thing by the way they're writing. I'm
Right.
seeing some of the worst journalism I've seen in my lifetime come out right now. It's deplorable. It's sickening. An eighth grader in a journalism class would have flunked out with the kind of journalism that we see coming across the board right now. So when I see a piece that's really true investigative journalism that doesn't have an itinerary, it's like, oh God, thank you, And I want to read more of that, but they're hard to find.
When you see this stuff that stimulates you, that's like, you know, eighth grading flunking, that's got an agenda and all that stuff. When you see this, how do you deal with that inside yourself? Like, because you're saying you don't go, God, that author, what an idiot, what are they doing? So how do you digest it without rejecting?
Well, I try to do a couple things. Like I look at a headline and I go, okay, you pulled me in with the headline. So now I'm looking for information that is actually quantifiable and qualifiable within an article.
Mm.
And if I don't see it, then I just stop reading it. And it's like, I don't have enough time in the day to just read someone's emotional opinion or someone's attempt to steer me down a specific path without a good, solid reason for why I should go there. Now, if someone comes and says, look at the sky is falling and this is how we know this telescope and this trajectory and these things are showing stuff falling out of the sky and they're hitting the earth and it's really happening and there is substantiation to it, I'm going to listen, and I'm not going to want to stand under where that sky is falling, right? But if someone just comes up to me and says the sky is falling and there's a conspiracy that all these things are going to happen and everybody's, it's like, what do I do with that? Well, if I'm feeling really insecure and I'm fearful, I'm probably going to latch on to one of those tightly, right? And my fear is gonna, it's flight or fight, right? And I don't want to fight. So, and I really don't want to fight. I want to find some stability. So I'm trying to grab onto something, but that thing that I'm trying to grab onto isn't a solid. It isn't a solid expression. And so this is where discernment comes in. We need to take time. Anything we read right now, we need to read and go, is this true? Is this true? And the person who wrote this, what do they really want us to believe? And it's okay, if they want us to believe something, but be clear about it. I would be great if a journalism said, look, I'm writing this article right now, and ideally, I want you to believe that we must do this for us to survive. That's where I'm coming from. And now I'm going to spell it out why I think that, and I'm even going to spell it out why you should think differently.
So
And
again,
I'm going to let you decide.
kind of courageous intimacy. Back again, it's being courageous with your words and being clear with who you are and what you're saying.
And your intentions behind it, for sure. Our intention is something that we have to look at all the time. It's back to your question, are we really speaking to something we need inside? And if we can ask ourselves, what's my intention in this conversation? What do I really want someone, what do I really need here? And oftentimes when people go, well, I need you, Mark, to understand this. I need you to understand this. I need you to believe this. I need you to join our rally. I need you to do these things, right? Well, no, the question is, why do I need Mark to do that? Why do I need him to do that? Why is that important to me? What core value of mine is being jeopardized or is being questioned? Why am I so sensitive about this? And we need to have those answers before we start pointing fingers and forcing people to take action. Is to really look inside and go, what is it that I really need? And and there's going to be some sound things. If it speaks to something we truly value, then by all means honor it. Right? But know where you're speaking from,
Right.
when you make a request.
And that is enabled by space, by allowing space.
And questions. It's
Right.
enabled by
Yeah.
curiosity. I mean, if there's one habit, one behavior that all of us need to have right now, is we need to be immensely curious. Like, we need to be like that little 4-year-old kid that's going, oh, what's this? They're in the sandbox and they're going, oh, what's this? What do I do to this? What can I build this? Oh, and look, I'm going to throw this at Mark. Uh-oh, there was a rock in it. Uh-oh. So I'm going to learn from it, right? But to be in that place of curiosity when we meet a woman or we meet a man and we're trying to discover how we show up for them, be curious. And from that place, there's a world of wonder that's available to us. And in that wonder is co-creation. And in that is bliss.
Amazing. Wonderment, space, curiosity. Larry, we've got so far into it. It's been a great chat. We haven't even really talked about what your tech is. It's an astrological based technology.
It's not actually.
Okay.
It appears to be, and the gift. I hope everybody will go get it. And I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk about it.
In the link
much.
under the video.
Yeah.
There's a free
So
gift.
what this is going to do is it's going to tell you energetically how you communicate, how you process information, how you run your life, your relationship to money, how you sexually engage. And this is so critically important because all of us have all kinds of stories about what kind of lovers we are, and most of them are wrong, right? Or not quite accurate. And to dial it in is so empowering. It's going to tell us about chemistry. Oh my God. Chemistry, which is brain drugs that go crazy, that get us infatuated. It's going to tell you what your chemistry is, and then it's going to give you some pieces of information that we call personality modifiers. All of that you get by only providing 2 pieces of information. And this is why I think you ask about astrology, because we're asking for your birth date, okay, and the birth date of your opposite gender biological parent. And by that, for you, it's your biological mother. For me, my biological mother. For your sweetheart, it's her biological father, right? Now, if you don't know this, and about 25% of the population sometimes don't know,
Right.
The birth date of their parent. If you don't know it, don't worry about it. Just use your birth date. Now, here's the deal. It's not astrology. The system is based on astronomy and quantum physics. Now, we got to understand astronomy is a hard science. Astrology, numerology, the I Ching, parts of the Enneagram, human design, gene keys, all of those use astronomy as a base, but they have a different story to tell, right? That's why they're also Vedic and Western astrology are different. So this is astronomy, but with it is quantum physics, is where we bring in the energetics. So at the core of everything is a frequency we vibrate at. And we identify these frequencies for you. They're like your blood type. They never change. They're genetic. And that's critically important. So knowing that blood type is like, look at, if you're going to go to the hospital and have a transfusion, or you're going to have an operation and you give them the wrong blood type, what happens?
You're in trouble. Yeah.
You're in deep trouble. You're dead, right? No bueno. But we're doing relationship surgery all the time without knowing the blood type. We need to know our blood type.
Know
And
your
it's
blood type so you can do proper relationship surgery.
that's well, so you can be the kind, loving person that all of us have the potential to be.
Mm.
And that's really where we want to come from. Like,
Mm.
we're all going to have differences. There are people that I work with that are very different energetically, but there's a lot more to why we come together as relationships other than just energetics.
Right.
You know, it's how we're raised. There's many things there, and if we have more time, we could talk about it. But the key is that this is just a way to help us better embrace and honor our similarities and our differences, along with all the other things that we need to know when we make decisions about who we want to interact with.
Mm.
And that allows us to come from our heart and not from our stories. That is what love is.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Larry, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great pleasure. Thanks for giving some precious time and insight.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. I am really impressed with what you do, Markabadi. To be doing these on a daily basis, that is bold, and that takes resilience and a strong desire. I know how long these take and how much go into them, and I really, really honor you for that work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And people can find out about your work at the4answers.com.
Right.
And
Definitely. And if you need to reach me, Larry M at the4answers.com, I answer emails. I will write back. Go get the report. If you have questions, get it. See for yourself.
right.
Experience it.
And that's, you're offering them free from that link that's in the video?
Totally.
Excellent.
Yep. Yeah.
Excellent.
Run it for yourself. Run it for your beloved. Run it on your children. Run it on your business partners. It is amazing
Great.
the benefits it can have.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Larry. Thanks for
You're
coming on.
welcome.
I'll just sum up the show. Thank you. Oh, wow. What a great show. So we're talking about, these patterns come up time and time again through all the speakers. What we're seeing really is it's about courage. It's about coming with heart and bravely coming with heart, and then allowing space. It's never about rushing and being the fastest and being the quickest. And what it's about is surrendering to allowing the pulse of the universe to be heard within you. And each person that we're in relationship with is a pulse. It's a dance, and both they have things to reflect to us. If they're annoying us, if we're irritated by them, that thing is in us. It's ours. It's our emotion. So what can we do to own it more clearly, and what can we do to understand them and their patterns more clearly? Generally, it seems that everyone wants to be heard. As Carl Jung says, the greatest gift you can give anyone is a space to be heard. So everyone wants to be heard, and everyone's trying their best to communicate their intent. Nobody's talking because they want to confuse things. They want to have things heard. They want you to agree with them, and so they're trying to communicate their belief system to you to make themselves feel better about their belief system. The question is to ask ourselves is, how much do we need the other person to agree with us for us to know what we believe? And there's the question. It's like, why are we arguing? Why are we talking? Why are we getting worked up and emotional about it? Is it because somewhere inside us we don't know our own opinion? We haven't allowed enough space for ourselves to get to know ourselves? And in lies the question, how much more space can you give yourself to be heard? That's the question. Wow. Thanks so much. Please all do go and download Larry's free assessment, the 4 answers. The link is in the video below. And check it out and see for yourself how it connects and how it informs you and gives you a reflective surface, a mirror, so that you can get to know yourself more and accept yourself more deeply. And then maybe you'll be less pushy of who you are with both your opinion, your extroversion, what you're saying, but also with your expectations, because your expectations are a projection. of who you are and what you want onto something else. So what would we be if we didn't project? How much more curious and open and present would we be with the universe if we didn't come with that mask that we put on the person? Space to be heard. Great. Thank you so much. I have a book, Book Evolve, bookevolve.com. Check it out. Please share. I always go to the wrong side. Share. The shares are important. Share this video. You're watching at any point, share it. Great. And likes are also fun. So thank you very much. Markabadi, such a pleasure. See you tomorrow.